A long time ago, the empire expanded all over the continent, and four forces, they were your main power. The Lion's House Golden dominated the arts, martial arts and management of the sword, providing regularly to the army. The best swordsman that protected to all the Union Protestant United, all priests and its communities, who loved the many gods of the empire, inspiring to everyone. The Bureau of Inspectors, the best detectives and spies of all the corners of the empire, watched everyone the Magic Tower, who ruled all wizards of the continent. There is more of 1,000 years surpassed everyone, the family Melvanger Main. It was the heart from the tower since its foundation 30 years ago. A war brutal against demons broke out, and the family Melvanger entered in battle at the forefront of the attack. They won, but at what cost? When the boy completed 8 years, your father died due to the terrible consequences of the war together with your mother. That was a simple teacher of magic, only 2 members. Of the past, big family remained piled up like sparrows in one day, rainy with a pain unbearable for 2 children small, a brother and a sister. The family main had fallen, and there was no one else to control the vassals. The great legacy was looted faster than the leaves fall on the floor in the autumn. Seeing this, the boy 8 years old swore to yourself, same that would become a great wizard and would restore the glory of your ancestors. Unfortunately, your misfortunes no finished there. The boy was considered a shame and a nobody in the family, because I couldn't not even conjure the first magic circle. A rare disease reached your body, depriving of their skills magic and the rebirth of your family. He had to be postponed. He dedicated all your forces to overcome the disease, but for more that he tried, everything was in vain. The magic can do wonders. But no, there was a miracle that could restore your magic. But the boy stopped praying, and then the heavens heard your calling in the middle to the thunder, and to the brightness of the armor he found a dragon. The dragon was a focus of magic, the power of heaven. Your only means to revive your family on the other side. He saw the paw of the devil holding a crack in the fabric of the world. The light and the darkness, they collided in a large battle ahead of your eyes, and the devil dived his spear in the skull. Resistant of the dragon, the boy saw a shadow so dark as the night itself, and in the middle, to the choir of the elements. Heard a voice that froze your soul. The eyes of the devil shone like coal. Your mouth writhed in a smile, crooked and malicious, and he found the one who would liberate him of yours tiring stamp, your new receptacle. The boy froze in front of the mass of darkness in which the devil had transformed. Give it to your body and leave. Govern us the world. Roared the demon. The darkness reached the boy. How a wave involving the completely and dragging to the bottom, if only he knew, before it would fall in the darkness. Would have looked for the dragon, thought the boy, while evil sought a path for your heart. But then he remembered whose it was. Elric Melvanger, the last of a large lineage, and not would allow was consumed that way. With a snap of fingers, he dissipated the darkness. The veins of the dragon, meridians, paths of mana. Many names, but only one essence, normally the flow of mana. It's thick and full, like a river, but their vessels were like a stream dry. Elric, he was accustomed listening about your illness as well as impotence of the healers, including those ones of the infirmary. Real magic, the time did not heal your illness. Congenital. Nothing changed over time. Of the years, and nobody knew how to cure it. Elric stayed devastated after your query with the doctor, feeling as a compass without needle, without knowing where to go. Your sister, he called several times before they answered. They were talking through of a ball magic at the gym, Isdun, where Eric was studying with enthusiasm. In her voice, I wanted to know. As it had been the exam and promised send money if necessary, Elric lied, what everything would be fine and that he would be cured shortly, then hung up. He doesn't. Could say the sister who doesn't would return home. The academy seemed another castle old, with walls thick and windows narrow. He always felt like a bird caged, right there. The boy, I studied a lot. Your grades were the best of the class, except related, nas to the use of magic, with the heart heavy. Eric walked slowly down the hall. He had been failed in these tests for the 4th time, and the rules from the academy were very rigid in this aspect. The expulsion would mean the end of your dream to bring glory for your family. He studied more than the others spent your books, until they are in rags, slept on your table, and ate breadcrumbs from the pocket, not to have to leave from the library. Now he knew all the formulas magic from the academy better than the palm from your hand. Then the exams theorists were a piece of cake. Eric always felt special. He couldn't and would not accept the destination of illness and poverty that had been given to him. Your opinion about yourself? No, was unfounded. Gifted of intelligence, the boy had a sense special and deep of mana. He had everything to become a great wizard. Attention took AR account in the room training, while dozens of students drew the first mana circle in their hearts. All students younger achieved immediately your first demonstrations, except one student older. He was coming right here after years training. The teacher suggested that he give up of the path of magician and become a scientist, promising, give a recommendation to the director. But Elric could accept a destination, like a mouse of library itself, that the disease cursed had cut all others' paths. To reflect on the subject, the boy left to the garden, to the statue of your illustrious ancestor. He was a hero of the great war against the demons, when a sun black appeared on earth and creatures winged filled. The sky the darkness gave rise to many ugly creatures and scary. But the wizard who fought against ALS simply snapped the fingers. The magic of the stars illuminated a second sun, a flash blinding, followed by a wave shock, like a slap of the universe used. On Melvanger smiled with the corners from the lips fines, while looking for its creation. Your image in stone kept the shadow of that smile from the academy that he had founded. And now your descendant would be dishonored and expelled from it while I was in the garden. He realized the rumors, acids of others' students about themselves, same. They stained the honor of the heir of the founder from the academy, and their laughter sarcastic. They were on holiday, pride of Alaric. Any other person would have stayed silent and pretended not hear anything, but the boy called the freshman. They had finished to leave of the room, training where they were practicing together. The 2 mice grey that were to spread rumors with so much trust stayed in silence. Immediately Elric asked them knew each other. Shan, the teacher assistant that gave them classes, with a smile sinister. The hurt boy approached from them like a hawk and demanded their names. The mere mention of that name was enough to do. The gossipers lose all trust then. Like rats grey, they quickly fled before to get involved in more problems. Your ancestor still shone in the rays of glory, immortal, and at that moment Alric wished with all the heart that your father was there with him, moving away. Your thoughts unnecessary. The boy came back to your state of spirit, really normal that your compass was. He broke it. Definitely would find out everything for lunch. Elric went to a cafe next, holding several sheets of paper. In the hands who tried escape with the light breeze of autumn. No, there was nothing on a disease blocker in the archives. From the academy the boy dug deeper than the mole, more diligent, but that was all in vain. Bang, his forehead hit at the table, shaking the dust of the papers old. Students of the first year trembled of horror with so much violence. Eric jumped and covered your attacker with a torrent of swear words. The face numb and apparently expressionless, the 3rd son of the family, Nestor. Sean looked at him as if it were a piece of rotten meat, the imposing veteran-haired copper color. I didn't like it when your name was mentioned in vain. Eric ignored all the screams, furious, because you, sympathy and perfection. I had come until then. He opened the arms dramatically. But your flattery didn't work. And Sean doesn't stop to grumble even when sat down the table. The little one traitor used constantly your name. And now it was even extorting money for a surgery plastic on the nose. Elric looked to the friend after the fall. 2 Melvangers, the academy was divided between 6 families, and the family, Nestor was one of them. The guy had gone up quickly in the hierarchy and become assistant of the teacher. The elitist could stay angry, the as much as you want. But Ulrich forgave everything from that he was by your side. Shan took out several sheets of paper, folded from the bag, and placed them on the table. He yet was panting, but delivered the rolls to the face with the head similar with a haystack, long hair, and disheveled, so disheveled as a haystack, a figure small with shoulders, narrow passages, as a junior, and a medallion thick with a cross and a flower intertwined around of the neck. Was as soon as if you could describe Elric, he was a brat, cheeky and overly proud, which implied with the students and discussed with the teachers. But it was the only one to whom one could appeal to ask Shan advice, told him about the dragon diamond, a species considered extinct, but whose nest there was been discovered by explorers. He wanted that Elric was with them on the expedition. At the beginning, the look bored of the boy lit up with a fire. Emerald, as soon as he familiarized with the materials, the nest of the dragon was a center of magic. Seeing your reaction, Shan was satisfied. If Alaric found the artifact, the Academy certainly would postpone your expulsion, and all thanks your modest contribution. He waited patiently for the compliments. Thoughts from the young man ran like a herd of stallions of the steppe. Cancel the expulsion, find a cure for the disease, wealth, fame. Elric jumped of the chair and hit with the fist at the table itself. That I found something the director current could take from him. But what doubts there could be himself? Heaven was upon him giving a chance. And he laughed diabolically. Shan, though accustomed to the explosions of the friend, immediately frowned and hissed. As a kettle on the stove, the little one rogue was doing a lot of noise. Were the ears wrong? Could I heard them with a smile radiant? The cunning fox pointed to a point on the map and said with such a voice acute as a bell, "Not here, there is no nest here," declared Alric. The conversation was important. Then Sean looked around with sadness to see if somebody was listening, but the students, they were talking casually at their desks. Sean, he lowered his voice to a whisper. Many scientists renowned had signed this study, and the young man, insolent, was the challenging with your declaration out loud. The boy, insolent, simply ignored your words and sat down. Even so, Shan decided, at least listen your friend intelligent. He passed his hand about the seal magician on the map, and this one answered with a blue light. It was a map special of the world that just teachers could use, a leaf of plain paper cannot contain so much, but this was like an ocean, swallowing everything all at once. The world around them, it disappeared, and the stars shone like grains of rice scattered around them below a blue sphere, extended the mainland from the continent marked by a deep crack canyon, exuded a huge amount of enough mana to accumulate along of hundreds of thousands of years. Was to be admired that the researchers were attracted to this place. Elric asked to the assistant of the teacher that repeated the 3 rules of the flow of mana, that everyone, the students of the first year, knew. Sean Franziu, the forehead, but appointed them wide to narrow from above down. He said while moved to the bottom of the crack, imaginary hot for cold. Sean expressed the last principle. Thanks to these 3 rules, they were sure that the nest of the dragon diamond, he was Ali Mas Oric, immediately pointed out the error from them. Molten magma flowed along from the bottom of the crack, which meant that there was no dragons there. The answer, it was so obvious that Shan scolded himself for not have realized before the volcano, Arca Enkia, regularly the bottom of the crack with stone liquid. That's how nature relieves the pressure accumulated, said Elric. The illusion ceased and Shan tried to defend your assumptions. Near Dali found traces of mana of dragon. Definitely there was a nest, to which the man base replied quietly. That did not deny the existence from the nest responding. The question is, not said by the friend. Elric smiled. He doesn't. I had doubts that the nest was there in the cave, Caragoo, and pointed the finger to the map again. Undoubtedly, this place was full of knowledge, old and mysterious, and also of countless treasures hidden in the depths from the cave mountains of gold. After the Shan conversation remained at the door from the office of the teacher for a long time without being able to decide whether should enter. He chose carefully the words, "But your honesty," and frankness natural suffocated him, even though pretended to be a simpleton and tell everything. How it was, he could be expelled for irritating your superiors, unable to decide. Shan wandered down the hall, although the classes already had finished a long time ago through the door-open room training. He saw the man-haired redheads in position training, creaking the teeth. He tried to fill your heart with mana. How a paralytic trying force your hands to move with the power of the mind, but not the sister eye. Answered like this, like meat with nerves broken does not respond. Shan slapped in the very cheek. As a friend, he had to help somebody that was clinging so desperately. Life the Professor Barak, that I longed for the position of the future dean from the academy, twisted his mustache, unhappy, as if you chewed the words that were told to him. The report about the search by the nest that he himself had approved was incorrect. Get angry. Shan understood and instantly started to sweat cold. Your tongue failed and stumbled as a dancer drunk when the assistant tried justify yourself. Barak shook nervously the boot and said that statements so high demanded arguments strong. Your voice was so suffocating as the clouds of sulfuric gas in the laboratory. Shan, I wanted to sink on the floor and had fear of breathing despite of being a son of the family. Nesta, what he said, I wouldn't stay unpunished, said the professor, assuming a look threatening. Shan felt himself as if I were in the background of an abyss under pressure of viscous mana by Barak, that there was reached the seventh circle, but the feeling oppressive. It disappeared as soon as Elric burst out in the office without crashing, or ceremony. Like a light and rebellious gust of wind spring. Shan immediately hissed to the friend, like a cat whose tail had been pinched. Now this troublemaker will turn everything around, headfirst down. He thought Elric transformed all in a farce, and now it did a bow. Late and apologized by intrusion. The teacher immediately understood where they came from, the ideas, crazy about you. Assistant looking for the clock, Dean Pocket Barak caressed the mustache again. Looking like satisfied, Eric could be smarter than the others, but no had proof. The unbearable boy. He responded with a smile. Sarcastic, even a child 3 years would have understood. No more explanations shorn nor dared to breathe. Why this crazy person was pulling the whiskers of the tiger that would devour them to both and not choke. But despite all the pompous presumption of barracks, he laughed with a laugh hoarse. Like a crow old it was fun with the bravado of the puppy. What I couldn't even muster up courage. It seemed so ridiculous that the future rector no could take seriously. Such insolence few are lucky, murmured the bald old man for the young self-confident, especially trash. How you murmured Barak and Elric felt your insignificance in this world. Then the teacher scratched his temple with your finger and had an idea. Brilliant of how to get rid of the splinter under the nail. Even so he could ignore your student. He offered a bet to the young man and smiled threateningly. Eric would receive everything what I needed for the expedition and could until requested a budget to the ministry. But if it failed, would have to give up of the inheritance family. The eyes of Barak shone eagerly. He dreamed a long time ago in placing the hands in heavy medallion of the first director of the academy, Uzon Melvanger. After a brief preparation, the friends left in the carriage from the academy, marked with the star 6-pointed from the magic tower. Throughout the route, your friend not worried could stay. Stopped, and bad could control yourself grumbling non-stop while Eric simply leer your book, the owner of the tuft golden knot in the head. He was not at all worried with the dispute. I just needed find the nest of the dragon Sean. Started the book of his hands on the part, more interesting this time, refusing. If you leave her Uric the impertinent escape with him, and if they don't found the nest, and if the assumptions by Uric were wrong, he would lose your last heritage family, scolded Sean to the friend. The boy looked for the heavy gold piece and silver that always used around of the neck a flower and a cross intertwined in a fort hug. The boy, cheeky, just laughed. The professor, greedy, always wanted this item. But Sean, he just snorted stronger for him as a chimney with wet coal because of these jokes. So, Ulrich smiled with sincerity and warmly your friend the will support until the end, and he was grateful. That's why Shan grabbed the head, because these were the words of a man that there was placed everything at stake. If they failed, both would end up in the street, but the rogue-haired Golden accepted these conditions by will own, and not why was forced. The boy's self-confidence smiled, thinking that if the greedy barracks that wanted both the inheritance of the family Melvanger would have to pay by ELA with your position, and then Shan remembered if this Auric, he had two faces, being the first a shame for the family Melvanger, and the second was the worst. Two Melvangers sitting in front of from him, there was a young man completely vengeful and proud with a heart cold. Despite his common appearance, they both smiled, understanding if perfectly speechless, the boys they met at the beginning of the semester when they were freshmen in a playground, stuffy, all panting, while invoked your first circle of mana 7 years ago. Like everyone else, the freshman, Shan tried to gather more sis than the others, because what more the young magicians could brag about some for others. Eric, 15 years old, sat. If away of all of him was already an outcast at that time. He was often intimidated, the heir of an old magical family. I couldn't, nor conjure a simple ball of fire they called rat's foot of the street, and laughed of your weakness. The boy felt bad. Elric reached out towards the magic sphere in front of you, of course, with all your strength. He crushed the back of the neck of the bastard with a stone, heavy for daring mock him. He hit with so much force that never more would need hit him to win all the battles at once, until what blood appeared on the stone. Later, a commissioned disciplinary was summoned. The academy does not tolerated violence within their walls. The young man, proud, no, admitted your fault. The son of the Viscount had insulted the Duke and was punished accordingly with the laws of the Empire, declared Elric boldly. The hall was buzzing. Like a beehive, disturbed the teachers, normally important, were waiting for the repentance. For the first time, someone once dared to challenge openly your authority, your punishment. It was the expulsion. Because according to with the rules from the academy, titles, no meant nothing, but from that day on, nobody dared more get closer from him. Shan knew well this feature of the guy with the clown in the head, always responding angry. Like a dog angry, he's just madman, muttered Shan and Alaric. He requested that he would stay quiet because was about to have a fit cardiac. But then the look by Sean was attracted for a book that your eccentric friend was reading of the session of publications prohibited on enchantments, and a hoarse scream escaped from your lips again. Elric scratched the back of his neck carelessly, realizing that if caught with this book, in the hands would be burned at the bonfire. You're crazy, Shan murmured, and returned the tired book. To stay angry, he asked cautiously to Elric, what would he do after to study the artifacts of the Monster King that strengthened the body? All these years, the boy was looking for a cure when the king of the monsters invaded the lands. Humanities with an army of beasts causing many problems. The beasts used art of strengthening body. But the people was still capable to expel them and build a high wall at the border. However, after that, the art disappeared, and never was restored. Remembered, shorn without. Taking off the eyes from the book, Elric replied casually that there was already restored the art, but simply, I did not know how to apply LA in your own body. Chance yielded completely. Everything in the presence of your friend. He was becoming unbelievable. Then I was tired of if surprise. But at that moment, the carriage shook and decreased the speed abruptly. Elric looked out unhappy to see that there was happened and scratched his head. Hurt them were received by Riven, a researcher senior. Under the leadership of the fat crow Barak, and some of your friends, Shan thought that they had come to mock by Eric and interfere with them, and cursed out loud. The researchers trembled. River quickly explained that all it was a request. Deans to help them, calling Barak of Deans, same in his absence, just to show off to the teacher, who kind of you from him, commented Ulrich behind of smiles, friendly. He could see easily the looks. Predatory Shan too realized that the researchers they were hiding your sister, and whispered to your friend was to be expected that the teacher greedy appealed to dirty tricks, but no. There was a reason to be worried because Elric also. He had prepared himself, pulled a little the collar of the shirt to show them. The assistant listed the artifacts that the blonde arrogant had brought. I can, with voice trembling, the alito of a hyena, the armor of the Lord of the Blue Sky. In the end, the dean himself had said that would help him. The breath of Jarana, a container which contained a flame inextinguishable, and the artifact more powerful against any damage. Barak shouted of terror. This equipment could reduce a city whole to ashes, and the students had gone for the most problematic. The professor ordered that your assistant disappeared, and he doesn't hesitated, disappearing behind from the door. The old crow bald guy snorted the teeth in sign of dissatisfaction. The others candidates could find out this and cause an uproar, but then he read carefully the report by Eric, and the dean smiled with satisfaction. The professor licked the lips with malice, like a frog, that there was captured a fat fly, anticipating how long would it take to put the hands in the pendant magical and become the next director himself. That the boy, if you were lucky to win the bet, he would only win if I could survive Elric Lu. The inscriptions runic carefully, the others simply observed the preparations when the spell was ready. Sean activated the search for mana and a light. Shone around you, light waves spread in circles, like a stone thrown into the water. Then a column of fire went off from the ground, like a geyser reaching the sky. Eric, I was right. The nest was in one place different. I heard about it. And that was why, what was the first screaming for everyone, move away until the pillar of fire. If it became extinct, Shan caught the man low. Even knowing that this would leave him embarrassed and ran towards at the signal of fire, he left the others explorers. Back deeply confused, they climbed the mountain breathing with difficulty, on the contrary of Sean, who does not have skills, physical and magic exceptional. But when they arrived to the plateau, discovered that the light was disappearing on the ground and there was none. Cave immediately started to blame Melvanger for failure. River smiled maliciously and murmured that now could crush the skull of the dear someone I had to pay for everything. But the clear voice of Alric interrupted your thoughts. And he shouted and pointed. If not, there was a way out for them, would have to create one. The men understood each other speechless. The AR was covered by a mirage caused by the heat intense that Sean AI had invoked, and he read a spell in a language old came. The spell escaped of your fingers, an explosion thundered as if someone had shot fire in a barrel of gunpowder. A fine earth's crust cracked, revealing an abyss deep. Others explorers realized that even a dragon could crawl through a crack of those. Then they almost were swept away by a gust of blue smoke thick. Only Elric remained standing and said them not to worry. That was just the liberation of mana accumulated through from the gap. After what everything calmed down, he said to they go down. As is appropriate to the leader of the expedition, the boy-haired whites walked ahead. As more descended, the colder it got in the cave. So much so that not even same spells heating helped them, were driven for a single ticket long and wide with the Brightness Sisters blue providing visibility. Elric froze for a moment, dominated for a feeling strange and sinister. He blamed the cold, humid from the cave and left the rest of the team follow in front. In the depths of the stone, an ancient evil was agitated. The embers of your eyes illuminated the cave, and finally a shadow whispered, "They are here." When the explorers arrived to the place, everyone froze of admiration. The long and wide ticket ended in a huge iron gate wrought of proportions gigantic, was covered of runes, and in the center shone a dragon golden ribbon was burning of impatience, then ordered that men stronger pushed the gates to open them. Others suggested to tear down the gates with magic, but the scream Ulrich High sent everyone stop. "Only a blind person would see the seal of the dragon here," exclaimed the young man, indignant River. Bit her lip, angry once again, looking like a complete idiot, while everyone gathered to discuss how to remove the seal. The assistant of the teacher discovered a protuberance round. He sat down closer to examine LA better, and while Elric warned all the ignorant not to act on account own because they didn't know what that could to happen, to follow the more fool among them. "There was already extended your hands greedy towards to the gate," Eric screamed, loudly so that it does not do this, but it was too late, too much like this. What River touched the sphere, a ball of fire shot from the ground. The trap it worked, and River would have transformed at the barbecue if not, had jumped back at that moment. The gate was left covered of letters red, like steel on fire. The fireball exploded, reaching of the explorers. One rain of blows fell upon them, but the magicians managed get up their shields. However, the nightmare not yet was over. Shan covered himself with your shield and asked to your friend Big-Headed what to do next, while Elric protected him, tried desperately decipher the runes he was breathing with difficulty, and I could barely concentrate, ignoring the screams of the wounded Sirius, and your requests. Help me this. It's just a test. He can find the answer, he repeated for yourself, and your eyes shone like emeralds. The bombing continued, and many had already been knocked down by the storm of Elric fire preferred words in a language dead, and touched the ball at the gate. God must love, he thought when everything was left in silence. Shan sighed of relief himself, almost died when holding all the blows, when seeing your friend falls. The short man ran to him to check if everything was well, friend loyal. There was survived, but there was victims among the magicians. He smiled once again, admiring the power of the mind of Elric, that nature had private of magic. Elric smiled with satisfaction. The mind was a real superpower, but before the hunters could rest, something approached of them again. A fragment of sharp ice, like a blade shaving, whizzed by, cutting clean the arm of one of the hunters. Eric felt a squeeze in the stomach. Didn't understand what was happening as soon as he looked up. Your mind shouted in alarm. Hundreds of thorns, ice cream were already pointed out for them, before that they could recover of the attack previous. The hunters raised their magic shields again, on the contrary of the flames. The ice had bigger power penetration. Then the leader of the team grabbed the scrolls again. The man headfirst of copper was in your last breath, yelling so that he can hurry up. But Elric didn't. I could hear, low he felt, as if I were in a desert, snowy, and saw a dragon flying, the source of magic. He thought Elric, wrapped in a glow, green, ran towards at the gates. Ignoring the rain of arrows, cold to the touch, the gate he preferred the words of a language, Dead River. Frozen with the mouth open of astonishment, he recognized the artifact of barracks, the armor of the blue sky that covered the short man. This time would work, thought Elric, closing the eyes. The trap fired little before the sharp tip pierced the neck by Sean. The features of magic residual dissipated, like the mist in the morning, and silence took over account of the place. The blonde reckless survived. Thanks your armor. Although have lost the shirt, the faces severe. of the wizards showed alarm and uncertainty while we're waiting on the other hand, dirty trick from the lair of the dragon. But then the gates opened up on account own, and a light, milky mind, hot, flooded the cave. Dark a treasure appeared before from them with cabinets, flyers containing scrolls and frills, ancient and countless mountains of more treasures than they could be gathered together throughout the story of the empire. The eyes of the hunters moved quickly. Your hands without knowing what to catch, armor of scales of dragon instruments, magical everything that was valuable and of high quality. The books, ancient in perfect conditions, were privately interested wizards continue. Magicians, thought Elric with a smile. But the main feature of the real explorers, its curiosity without limits, one of them patted on the shoulder of the low leader, and what he did, he was surprising, admitted the explorer. For the first time, Elric time received praise of other people. What caused it chills in the spine? Sean also came. Congratulate your friend for success and asked that there was happened before he was. As a test, he always took maximum marks. In theory, he boasted if Elric, but then a thought, painful, it hit him that perhaps he was really being tested. Sean patted on his shoulder on such a day. A beautiful Elric Melvanger should not to be frowning because nobody more could ignore his lineage. He really, it achieved after of all these years. He thought Shan's hand messed up your hair, rebel, but even that was worried. It was worth it to enjoy that moment, Elric. There was found freedom, while this river spoke in the magical sphere of communication, but your voice low, it was stuffy by the echoes of the camera of the treasure. Somebody grabbed the leader low and asked that he look to the laboratory. Shan, I wanted to follow the butt, Riven called him, to look at the remains, mortals of the dragon behind, from the mountain of gold. What a boy never dreamed in seeing a dragon with their own eyes. Shan immediately got excited. River grabbed him firmly by the arm and said that the man low would join to them later, the skeleton of the dragon. Fez, forget you, all yours. Suspicious, even dead. It seemed majestic, with the huge open mouth to judge by size. The king of the dragons was there. There is at least 4,000 years, the scoundrels, they tore off your armor and threw it on the ground. They had planned this with advance independently of him finding the nest of the dragon, or not, Elric. Sweared high. The discovery went up to him the head, and he downloaded the guard. Does not, it's nothing personal, said the scoundrel-haired longs of the group. They even liked it of the little man, talented and smart. Shan watched the remains mortals of the dragon without taking their eyes for a moment. It seemed to him that the ancient beast moved. Like a mouse cornered, Elric looked anxiously around in search of help, but everyone was very absorbed. Examining the treasures, the boy tried to scream, but a blow in the stomach silenced him. Nobody was reliable after all that had passed, thought Elric, looking to the point, flaming in his sentence of death outside. From here, he heard someone shout, a wave mana blue, cut the AR where the conspirator. He was the interior of Elric, contracted into a tight knot, and everything what was left of the scoundrel, it was the hand that he held. The boy turned around to see what had happened. There is no vision more terrifying in the world than a dragon enraged. The walls of the treasure filled up with the smell of a storm. Elric froze, as if your legs were frozen on the ice, and now he wondered traps were one thing, but disturb a dragon dead was another. The panic took over of all the hunters of treasures, all except Rick, who left aside the fear of another approval and observed carefully the dragon that remained. Property thoughts ran for your head, colliding with the rocks of reason. Everything had to be considered and weighted. When the plan was ready, Elric ordered that everyone is gathered in a formation, defensive to win time. The hunters raised their shields and protected themselves with screens. Magic, the empty throat of the dragon spat fire true blue. There was a bang, terrible, when powerful spells collided, like hundreds of knives cutting glass. The breath of the dragon wouldn't last any longer than 20 seconds, and if they could resist, they would have a chance, thought Rick. Chance missed the teeth and kept your position. The exit of the camera of the treasure was very close, only a few moments. Then they could close the doors and hide of the dragon, one of the hunters. It lost your shield and the flames. They burned it instantly to the bone, reducing to nothing. Your turtle hesitated, and in another moment they would have suffered the same fate of the unfortunate man. But at that moment the attack of the river of fire weakened, and Elric shouted, so that ran even that the dragon already had died a long time ago. Even your magic needed of a rest. Then the hunters ran to the exit. Eric ran with all others, your hope of salvation staying each time stronger. But then he heard a terrible sound, like something that would be heard in a butcher's shop. A noise, chewing and suction. Another unfortunate hunted himself dead. Their armor rattled, like rattles of children. Bones creaked against the metal, and arrows of rays shone in their orbits empty. The Spartans' warriors legendary that protect the dragon, even of life after death. One of these corpses, semi-decomposed, almost decapitated Rick, but a ball of fire brought down the warrior. Sean protected him and shouted so that he recovered the reason. He managed to defend against many enemies and saw everything. The field of battle, a crooked sword, and Rusty whistled by your ear. And Shan, the wizard-haired redheads, are back your attention for a new enemy. Another task with which he had to deal, only him could do. The mind of Elric went blank. Every problem has a solution. I was tired and scared, the heavy pendant pressing your chest. But Elric stopped to pay attention to these trifles. A sharp pain reached like a needle in the eye. When the boy stopped to tighten, the eyes saw a green web extended before him, the lips. Sean's barely moved, as if he wanted to say something, but the words do not arrive to your ears. Get down to Rick, read your lips and froze in place. By the corner of the eye, he saw Sparta with a shield and a sword running towards you. The warrior struck a blow, powerful with your weapon blunt, but Ulrich dodged if easily, as a ghost in the wind surprised with their own skills. He dodged of the coup again. What he initially thought to be a hallucination now showed him the angle and the direction of the attack. The places were safe, highlighted with stars, greens. With this map, the battle would be. A walk in the park, he thought. Elric see it was an illusion. Or no, he doesn't had time to think about, because the Spartans attacked first. Like a cat wild, Elric escaped all. It would be in vain if he died. There the hunters fled, hurriedly taking the wounded with them. River screamed like a rabbit coward, begging so that take him with them. Elric ran ahead, using your vision to guide everyone behind him. He showed to everyone how to dodge of the attacks, predictable of the warriors dead, and so on, all. Survivors arrived at their destination. The first hunters had already crossed the line. Like this, that they closed the gates, they would survive, thought Rick. But then he heard a scream of relief, and it really froze, thinking that there was already abandoned your humanity a long time ago. Damn river, he was getting in the way until now. To close the doors, he needed, leave it back. The eyes of man with glasses begged for compassion. But Spartan, there was already delivered a blow against him. The zombie stuck his head in at the door, as if there were a thick glass on the way. The persecutors breathed with difficulty, the cold air from the cave tearing your lungs. But they had escaped. Chan grumbled again with their leader, Shorty, for running so much risk. But the guy just waved to him. The blame nerd era for having legs so weak. After several blows in the head against the barrier, transparent, the zombie moved away above in the den of the dragon. Eric noticed signs of destruction, the which meant than others. Groups of hunters, they had been there before them. The dragon, if moved threateningly again. Now that we're not more fighting in the heat of the battle, the boy saw a thorn sharp in the skull, but as soon as the hunters thought that the danger had passed, the ceiling collapsed about them, incapable to pass through the gate. The warriors, zombies, ingenious. They opened the way through the ceiling, vaulted from the cave. The gate closed, if slowly, and Sean looked quickly. Your return looking for of your friend. He was within of the camera of the treasure, and Sean. Quickly did you realize that the madman was plotting something dangerous, and shouted to, "He goes in front," said the guy with a tuft hair in the head, smiling through from the gate that closed. The loyal friend ran towards to the gate in an attempt desperate to pull it out, but the heavy one's doors were locked, and the young man scientist hit the metal thick, but they remained deaf to their screams 7 years behind after the dismissal of Alric. Shan decided to meet this boy very angry. The look of the boy remained empty, as if Not was looking for one person, long live, but to a small table bedside that nobody cared. After 1 minute of silence, Auric let out a dry, "Go away." However, Sean no gave up and tried again the next day, coming back to the library where the little one bully used to stay, with the same result 1 week. Then when met in the hallway, the boy, bad mood, ignored him. A month later, the teacher took them to the forest. The magicians, they had to care for health, or they ran the risk to die before. Of the 30 years was to be a race light run through the forest in the dark without using magic. It was mandatory, and the note depended of the position in which you finished born with a body. Shanfort quickly stood out and ran through the forest like a wild boar young. He was already in the middle of the path to the mountain when asked should take the short guy with him. That was not nowhere, but this distracted him, and he slipped in the leaves, wet, fallen on the ground at the moment next felt. If falling, Shan fell off the trail, and it rolled head first down towards to the precipice. He was by a miracle that he escaped of death, clinging to the edge from the cliff and holding on your hands quickly, stayed sleepers due to the rock cold and damp, and realizing that I couldn't hold on for a long time. Shan started asking, "Help." The skinny one river ran past with your friends. He always hated the tall boy and strong of a family. Famous that also was gifted of powers, magicians, they suggested that Shan used your talents to save yourself and left him hanging on the cliff. But this meant the failure right in the race. But then he felt relief when someone grabbed your hands, sleepers, and pulled them towards you, creaking the teeth. The short man pulled the high out from the abyss, barely managing "do not fall," and now the two they were breathing heavily, leaning against in a tree. Shang's leg was swollen and blue, as if someone had spread paint on your skin. Then he suggested that Auric go ahead and passed in the test. It was gone because of insistence previous by Sean OU, because the man low had the nobility of its great ancestors. He got the guy injured and helped him walking. "You said that wanted to be ours," friend replied to Rick the exclamation. "Surprise the boy of birth." Noble was moved for the first time, but then the short man announced your price. Some artifacts of your house would be very useful, as usual among friends. He asked and smiled as a little fish smell market. They wandered slowly through the forest, full of smell of leaves rotten that had given origin your friendship. What an idiot, thought Shan, waking up. 2 flashes from the past itself, being a little man weak, he still protects to everyone. Without knowing if the friend could, I heard. Lo Sean shouted for him to hold on until the help arrived, that I would call soon, the elders, or your father. He even ran to open path between the crowd of zombies. Eric leaned. Over on the wall was the best to do. He knocked. I could leave your friend if you put yourself in danger. He was exhausted, trapped in the middle of a tomb, ancient with hordes of enemies and a dragon, huge without thinking. The boy ran forward. The zombies, they threw bones in it, but using your new skills, Elric easily diverted them. Not even the offense of the dragon it achieved. Reach it then. Eric Saku, your last appeal. An ancient cup, the eyes of the boy. They shone threateningly. He dreamed in trying this. From the beginning, artifacts can only be used by those with SES, but instead, Elric filled the cup with your own vital force. The fire devoured the warriors, zombies, like a stack of dry branches. 2 fires different merged in a dance, intense, the blue light of the breath of the dragon and the fire-yellow hell. Alric had returned your armor earlier because he felt protected, everything that was a big test. Then he didn't have more fear. The answer for this exam, he was right in front, a thorn from him. Sharp was nailed deeply in the skull of the dragon. If the answer was wrong, he simply would die there. But still, the guy doesn't had intention to retreat because he was the Rick Melvin Gear. Surrounded by a horde of corpses decomposing, he grabbed the handle of the weapon. The guy froze in place. Everything disappeared. The skeleton of the dragon, the zombies, the camera of the treasure shining with scales, diamond. The fearsome dragon spread its wings like candles and hovered in the middle to the thunder. Soon flashes of lightning. Elric saw another sinister shadow. The dragon breathed heavily. Clouds of steam leaving from your nostrils, like smoke of a furnace. The shadow below stared at the sky. Crimson, turning around the devil, looked directly for Elric, and a smile, satisfied, spread by your face. The dragon got up a hurricane with a single beat of your sails and roared as if you challenged the devil for a fight. Covered by an aura, dark crimson, the devil invoked your magic. The dragon concentrated your magic in your breath. The bright light of his blow incinerated everything around you like the sun, but the spear of the devil divided the beam of light in two. A darkness dirty and sticky met around of the spear of the devil. They collided again, and with the impact, Eric lost the hearing one concentration so big of mana, a wise man of the eighth circle. Or higher he thought he protecting, if from the waves shock the devil surrounded himself of darkness and attacked the dragon. The dragon spat jets of light that they incinerated the mountains. The devil appreciated the battle, as if it were a game. The structure of the world not resisted attention, and broke in two about power of the devil. He dived his spear in the skull, thick of the dragon. The creature that had defeated the dragon alone turned, if for the young, the one who would liberate him of the seal, cursed, and the devil roared with a voice, sinister, burning eyes, like coal in a face, merciless, and a smile triumphant, the appearance of the devil. Transformed in darkness to capture a new receptacle delivered your body, and together we will govern the world. He said. Elric was stunned, and I didn't know what to say. I had seen nothing like before, but then the dragon that should already be dead opened the mouth of which arose thick currents magic. He put a stamp of death in the devil. Mephistopheles will be buried with him, said the dragon. Mephistopheles laughed, saying that the dragon Shinai that had it sealed, there are thousands of years. This time, everything was different. The great vase was fine in front of him, and the darkness went down about Eric, ignoring the currents. Not that it's a test of the dragon, it's a trap of the devil. Realized the boy when the darkness penetrated your heart, he shouted while your body was reduced to dust by forces larger than he, the sister of the dragon and the spirit of the devil. Your grandfather, your father and others sacrificed their lives to banish such monsters. Thought Elric just him and your sister remained of the great clan, the family imperial, the members from the magic tower, the vassals traitors. All they delighted themselves with greed after the fall of the family, even that in whom I trusted more, and with whom more counted your uncle, had taken the inheritance enjoying, if the fact of which they were minors of age, the devil. It found easily the darkness in your heart, and waves of pain drilled Elric with a force even bigger. When not, they had left nothing, was simply abandoned, and the world whole turned to them, the back. The boy understood everything, speechless. They were enemies. A stone thrown by the hand of a child could cause damage, but it was full of pain and anger, and only your sister, the held with force on the edge from the abyss beyond, of which there was darkness, when everyone was, although they stayed completely alone in a mansion huge and in ruins. But despite that, survived through of all the difficulties that they happened. Elric dreamed in healing your body and revive your family. The darkness filled your mind, and he drowned in it as if I were in a whirlwind. Not Melvanger, it cannot be consumed by such a monster, said Elric, and felt the force what always been with him, your eyes. Emerald dissipated the darkness. The demon retreated, as if had been hit by lightning. A force, irresistible, grabbed him with more force than before. Right here, the first demon will be consumed, as it should be said, to the Rick words that he does not understood. Your hair swayed with the gusts of power. With a snap of fingers, he dissipated the darkness with the same ease with which always did, as if it had born for that, and then everything was left in silence, and only a white light remained, as a brand of paint. The seal of the beast remained in your hand. Elric looked for yours, hands transparent, as a ghost, and not understood where was the figure, with a cover wide and torn with a pattern, bright of owl and books, on the back seemed familiar to you. He heard a voice speaking in the void. Was a group of scientists who were looking for tirelessly the perfect magic. Elric could remember where had heard that voice before, and I couldn't distinguish the face of the strange. From a distance, the stranger continued your story, saying that the thirst for power had consumed the seekers, and they allowed that the demons defeat them. A black sun lit up the sky, realizing your mistakes. The seekers of power created a family to repent, whispered the stranger. Golden hair appeared over your hood. Before them the king appeared of the demons, a bigger giant than any dragon or creature, or better, the god of the demons that held the black sun in the hands. The family created by search engines must destroy these demons. It is your duty. But in a cycle endless, the demons never would disappear. Killed oneself and another appeared. The only way was to consume them repeatedly until they were completely exterminated. The seeking wizard was alone against an army of monsters that advanced against him. But your magic, full of light, stellar era, incomparable one day in the future, distant yours descendants will inherit your wish eternal. The vision of the army of demons, it disappeared in an ocean of fire. The image of the star wizard disappeared, and he tried grab LA, but Elric's hand grabbed only the AR, and he was surprised upon discovering that the vision had missing. He got up from your bed, soft and hot and everything. What was there happened, seemed a dream. Distant, the dragons full of treasures, the demons and the magicians. Your faithful friend was sitting near him in his clothes, blues of teacher assistant with the shoulders, tremendous, treacherously. A second ago, Elric understood everything at once. He was crying now and turned around, but your friend denied everything. Away the emotion in your voice, denounced him all. Well, everyone cries, consoled the little one, Rogue especially, because Shan also was crying in the nest. Finally, he turned around with the eyes shining threateningly, and Elric realized that there was past of the limits. They were in the hospital, where to Elric had been taken by the team rescue call by Sean. The boy was sitting in bed, pressing a cold egg against the face to relieve the pain of the blow that Sean had given him. Eric grumbled, unhappy with his noble friend who is lowered violence, but he quickly turned around when Shan looked for him again. Then Shan noticed something strange and asked to the friend who get up quickly, and then they both saw that the man, no, he was more there. Eric looked with astonishment for your reflection now. He was almost so high, how much Shan, twice wider on the shoulders, and your face had lost the appearance, dark and sickly from before. Memories from the past flooded their mind. He had changed there in the den of the dragon. Shan asked what was there happened there and where the dragon had gone. The fact of your friend have survived, it was a miracle. Elric smiled awkwardly. I wanted to lie, but no could count the whole truth of which no, I was sure. Sean nobly patted on your shoulder, saying that understood, but your face hurt, said the opposite while cleaning the egg. He said to the ugly duckling that the seed from Nesta now was taking care from the Elric nest. I was hoping that was already being studied, but was surprised upon learning that yet was intact. In the end, accordingly, with the law, the finding belonged to the person who discovered it. Then Shan did it all, what can, to prevent than others arrive to. The nest, several scientists and researchers could acquire the rights to dig. Shan smiled, thinking in rats greedy from the magic tower and the scoundrels from the academy, dying of thirst to put the hands in everything. Though Eric's face had changed, he remained the same and smiled sincerely, moved with so much concern. Words of gratitude so rare for this rogue left Shang embarrassed. Then he dodged. The look is clear that the family Shang wanted your part, but they were patients. Ulrich laughed and they hit the fists, how it was your custom.